Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So before we begin the Srimad Bhagavatam reading, this is a very important day. As we mentioned this morning, it is the appearance day of Srimati Sita Devi, the consort of Lord Ram, the disappearance day of Sri Maru Pandit, and the appearance day of Srimati Janava Devi, the consort of Lord Nityananda. So we're going to read a little bit about each one, and then we'll do the Bhagavatam. So, I hope you don't think I'm too offensive, but Sita Devi was not in the book by Mahanidhi Swami. So, oh yes, I looked her up. Wikipedia. Sita Devi is also called Janaki and Vaidehi, and she is the female protagonist, hero of the Ramayana, Lord Ramchandra's consort, who is the avatar of Vishnu, who is God, and he is regarded as she is regarded as a form of Vishnu's consort Lakshmi. She is also the chief goddess of all Ram traditions. She's known for her dedication, her self-sacrifice, her courage, and her purity. I bet you didn't know this. She is one of 17 national heroes of Nepal. She's the daughter of the earth, Bhumi. There's a whole story how she appeared from the earth. She was brought up as the adopted daughter of King Janaka. In her youth, she chose Ram, the prince of Ayodhya, as her husband in a Swayambara ceremony. The famous breaking of that massive bow. Only Ram could even lift it. After the Swayambara, she accompanied her husband to his kingdom, but later she also accompanied him along with her brother-in-law Lakshman in his exile. You know the story. He was exiled because one of Dasharatha's queens was hoped that her son Bharat would become the king, but he wasn't to be, and so she took the boons that Dasharatha had promised her. She had done some service for him, and there were two boons: exile Ram from the kingdom and make my son the king. So that was so heavy for Dasharatha. He didn't survive. I think he passed away shortly after that. And then the famous exile took place, and Ravana had heard about the great beauty of Sita. Oh no, what happened was that Shurpanaka, I'm not sure what that means. I think it means her nose is cut off. Is that what does Shurpanaka mean? Naka is the nose, isn't it? And Shurpa. Anyway, she was disfigured when she tried to seduce Ram and Lakshman, I think it was, who disfigured her, and she ran off to her brother, Kara, right? Kara means ass, as far as I know. And he had this big army, and Ram, she said, "Oh, look who did this to you? Oh, this Ram, I'll go kill him." And so Ram killed Kara and all the soldiers except for one, who ran back to Ram and told him, Ravana, and told him about what happened. And so he was more interested in hearing about Sita. So that's where he was at. So anyway, he kidnapped her. So while in exile, Lakshman also accompanied, while in exile, the trio settled in the Dandaka forest from where she was abducted by Ravana, the Rakshasa king of Lanka. She was imprisoned in the garden of the Shoka grove until she was rescued by Ram, who slayed her captor. Okay, so this is just a summary here. And later on, after the war, in some versions of the epic, okay, I think it's the one we accept, Ram asked Sita to undergo Agni Pariksha, an ordeal by fire by which she proved her purity, and then she was accepted. For the first time, it makes his brother Lakshman get angry at him. That I didn't know about. Okay. Anyway, but we accept this because this is what Lord Chaitanya found in the Kurma Purana. How when she entered, she was kidnapped by Ravana, but it was actually a Maya Sita, right? And then when she was tested by the fire, the Maya Sita entered and the real Sita came back out. So the real Sita wasn't really captivated. Okay, and then we know that later on she was exiled because there was talk that how Ram is henpecked, he's accepting her back even though she was kidnapped by Ravana. Okay. Sita Devi ki jai. And now we turn to the other two individuals, Jahnavi and Madhu Pandit. First we hear about Madhu Pandit. Vrajanabha, Lord Krishna's great-grandson, installed the original Gopinath deity in Vrindavan over 5,000 years ago. About 500 years ago, Paramananda Bhattacharya discovered the deity in the earth at Vṛtrāsura on the banks of the Yamuna. Madhu Pandit Goswami, a disciple of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, worshipped this Gopinath deity. The Bhakti Vṛtrāsura says that Sri Gopinathji, who is an ocean of mercy, forever sports along the enchanting banks of the Yamuna at Vṛtrāsura. His bodily luster steals the mind of whoever sees him. When the soothing sweetness of Gopinathji's charming form enters the heart, it immediately extinguishes the burning fire of material existence. Now the original Gopinath deity stays in Jaipur, in Rajasthan. Madhu Pandit Goswami blessed Srinivasacharya with Gopinath's garland before Srinivas, Narottam, and Shyamananda took the bullock cart of the Goswami literatures from Vrindavan. In Goloka Vrindavan, Madhu Pandit Goswami serves as Mandali Saki in the group of Champalakata Saki. The Samadhi of Madhu Pandit is on the right side of the entrance within the compound of the Radha Gopinath temple in Vrindavan. And finally, Srimati Janavi Devi, the consort of Nityananda. Uh-oh. I thought I had that. Just give me a second here. Okay. Sri Nityananda's two wives, Sri Vasudha and Sri Janama Devi, are expansions of Lord Balaram's eternal consorts, Varuni and Revati. And if I'm not mistaken, they're sisters. Isn't it? Vasudha and Janavi were sisters. After the disappearance of the Panchatattva and many of Lord Chaitanya's eternal associates, a huge Sankirtan festival was held in Ketari on Gaur Purnima. Now this was organized by Narottam Das Thakur, if I'm not mistaken. That was his hometown. Thousands of Lord Gauranga's followers, such as Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda, Srinivas, Vrindavan Das, Murari Chaitanya, Parameshwar, and Miniketan Ramdas attended the first Ketari Sankirtan Mahotsava. They celebrated Gauranga's appearance day with thunderous chanting, exuberant dancing, and tasty prasadam. 6 sets of Gauranitai deities were installed. Sri Janava Mata cooked a matchless feast and personally served all the Vaishnavas. During Narottam Das Thakur's Prema Nam Kirtan, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and all their associates suddenly appeared to the light of all. They had already disappeared, and they all appeared there, and everyone was able to see them. You can imagine the ecstasy. Ma Janava, an affectionate name given by the devotees, traveled throughout Gaur Mandala Bhumi and Vrajabhumi. Wherever she went, the Gaur Bhaktas happily greeted and served her. Known as Nityananda Sarupini, the very personification of Lord Nityananda, Janava Devi overflowed with prema bhakti. She delivered many atheists and sinners by her compassionate preaching. Now I read that she was understood to be kind of the head of the whole Sampradaya at that point, right? And she was telling the Rupa and Sanat and the others, okay, you wrote all these books, now what about the book distribution? Right? And then finally they took on they took the books, they took the books down to Navadvip, where all the scholars were. Otherwise we wouldn't have them. And of course they got stolen. I'm not going to go into that. That's another pastime. Stolen and recovered. So there's a prayer to Janava Mata that Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers in his Kalyana Kalpataru songbook. O Janava Devi, by the power of your divine qualities, be merciful to this servant of yours. Dispel this illusion which torments me, and relieve me of material existence. Let me take shelter at your lotus feet. You are Nityananda Shakti, the divine energy of Lord Nityananda himself. You are the Guru of Krishna Bhakti. Be merciful to me and grant me the shade of your lotus feet, which are like a desire tree. You have delivered countless abominable sinners. Please deliver me in the same way. Today, praying for your mercy, this lowly sinner falls at your holy feet. It is said that Sri Janava Devi left this world by entering the deity of Gopinath in Vrindavan. In Vrajadam, she serves Krishna as Ananga Manjari. Sri Janava Devi ki jai, Sri Madhu Pandit ki jai, Sri Sita Devi ki jai. And now, just give me a second here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 28th day of April, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 11, The Transcendental Qualities of Vṛtrāsura, text number 5. Yadi Vaha Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe Spiha Yadivak Pradane Shraddha Saram Va Chullaka Ridi Agre Tishtata Matram Me Nached Gramya Sukhe. Yadi, if, Vaha, of you, Pradane, in battle, Shraddha, faith, Saram, patience, Va, or, Chullaka, O insignificant ones, Ridi, in the core of the heart, Agre, in front, Tishtata, just stand, Matram, for a moment, Me, of me, Na, not, Chet, if, Gramya Sukhe, in sense gratification, Spiha, desire. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vṛtrāsura is berating the demigods. Oh, insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the cores of your hearts, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. Purport. Rebuking the demigods, Vṛtrāsura challenged, "O demigods, if you are actually heroes, stand before me now and try to show your prowess. If you do not wish to fight, if you are afraid of losing your lives, I shall not kill you. For unlike you, I am not so evil-minded as to kill persons who are neither heroic nor willing to fight. If you have faith in your heroism, please stand before me." I'm going to read a few more. All right. Shukadeva Goswami said, Vṛtrāsura, the angry and most powerful hero, terrified the demigods with his stout and strongly built body. When he roared with a resounding voice, nearly all living entities fainted. When all the demigods heard Vṛtrāsura's tumultuous roar, which resembled that of a lion, they fainted and fell to the ground as if struck by thunderbolts. As the demigods closed their eyes in fear, Vṛtrāsura, taking up his trident and making the earth tremble with its great strength, trampled the demigods beneath his feet on the battlefield the way a mad elephant tramples hollow bamboos in the forest. Seeing Vṛtrāsura's disposition, Indra, the king of heaven, became intolerant and threw at him one of his great clubs, which are extremely difficult to counteract. However, as the club flew toward him, Vṛtrāsura easily caught it with his left hand. There's a wonderful painting of this. You remember that? Here's this huge Vṛtrāsura, and Indra's on his elephant. He throws his club, and the club looks like a little toothpick. He caught it in his left hand. Completely insignificant. But it was strong enough, he used it against the elephant. O King Parikshit, the powerful Vṛtrāsura, the enemy of King Indra, angrily struck the head of Indra's elephant with that club, making a tumultuous sound on the battlefield. For this heroic deed, the soldiers on both sides glorified him. Struck with the club by Vṛtrāsura like a mountain, obviously there's no purports here, struck with the club by Vṛtrāsura like a mountain struck by a thunderbolt, the elephant Airavata, feeling great pain and spitting blood from its broken mouth, was pushed back 14 yards. In great distress, the elephant fell with Indra on its back. Okay, for extra credit, how did this Airavata appear? Who remembers? Yeah, he appeared from that ocean when the demigods and demons churned the ocean. When he saw Indra's carrier elephant thus fatigued and injured, and when he saw Indra morose because his carrier had been harmed in that way, the great soul, Vṛtrāsura, following religious principles, refrained from again striking Indra with the club. Taking this opportunity, Indra touched the elephant with his nectar-producing hand, thus relieving the animal's pain and curing its injuries. Then the elephant and Indra both stood silently. O king, when the great hero Vṛtrāsura saw Indra, his enemy, the killer of his brother, the killing of Vṛtrāsura's brother, his name was Vishwarupa, standing before him with a thunderbolt in his hand, desiring to fight, Vṛtrāsura remembered how Indra had cruelly killed his brother. Thinking of Indra's sinful activities, Vṛtrāsura became mad with lamentation and forgetfulness. Laughing sarcastically, he spoke as follows. Vṛtrāsura said, "He who has killed a Brahmin, he who has killed his spiritual master, indeed he who has killed my brother, is now by good fortune standing before me face to face as my enemy. O most abominable one, when I pierce your stone-like heart with my trident, I shall be freed from my debt to my brother. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you killed my elder brother, a self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahmin who had been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master, but although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his heads from his body, the way one butchers an animal. Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eaters, Rakshasas. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you. Only the vultures will eat your body." What an insult. God. You're naturally very cruel. If the other demigods, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with this sharp trident. With those heads I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairava and the other leaders of the ghosts, along with their hordes. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities, such as jackals and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligations to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. Purport. Shri Narottam Das Thakur sings, Echai Gosai Haram Vṛtrādas Tan Sabara Pararenu Mora Panchagras I am the servant of the 6 Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet provides my 5 kinds of food. A Vaishnava always desires the dust of the lotus feet of previous acharyas and Vaishnavas. Vṛtrāsura was certain that he would be killed in the battle with Indra because this was the desire of Lord Viṣṇu. He was prepared for death because he knew that after his death he was destined to return home back to Godhead. This is a great destination, and it is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payeche Keba. No one has ever gone back to Godhead without being favored by a Vaishnava. In this verse, therefore, we find the words Manasvinam Padarajak Papatsye. I shall receive the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees. The word Manasvinam refers to great devotees who always think of Krishna. They are always peaceful, thinking of Krishna, and therefore they are called Dhira. The best example of such a devotee is Narada Muni. If one receives the dust of the lotus feet of a Manasvi, a great devotee, he certainly returns home back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So much is happening here. And one of the things that I think we can notice is that Vṛtrāsura seems to be switching back and forth from his aspect of a big demon to his real nature as a devotee. I mean, first of all, you remember, I think before we read this passage, he was berating the demons for running away from the demigods. He said, "Why you should stand and fight? You know, this is not Kshatriya." He was giving the actual Kshatriya principle of either you perish on the battlefield and enjoy the heavenly planets because it's a righteous fight, or you are victorious and you enjoy the kingdom at home. Lord Krishna used the same argument with Arjuna. You remember? He said, "Don't worry about victory or defeat. If you win victory, you'll enjoy the kingdom. If you're defeated, you'll go to heaven." So it's a win-win situation. But you have to fight. You know, you can't run away from the battlefield. So that was when Krishna was not in the role of a guru. That's the standard Kshatriya talk. One Kshatriya trying to encourage another, and that's a duty of the charioteer. Charioteer has important duties in relation to the fighter, to the warrior. You remember when I think Pradyumna was knocked out in a battle, and his charioteer took him from the battlefield. And when Pradyumna woke up, he berated the charioteer. "No one has ever left the battlefield in our whole family. What are they going to say about me?" You know? So he rushed back into the battlefield and took up. But the charioteer was saying, "No, it's the duty to take care of the charioteer, to take care of the Kshatriya if he's injured." You know. So there's all of these rules and of etiquette, and this is one of the themes here that I'd like to also mention, is that for every station in life, right? We have the varnas and the ashrams, and you know where we are, which varna we're in, which ashram, and there are certain rules and regulations for that. But it's proper, by which you everything, what you do is auspicious. Your activity is auspicious, and for us, auspicious means it helps your devotional service, right? So that like there's certain etiquette. There's a nice book that was put together, I think, by Radhanath Swami's disciples called The Etiquette. I have it on my iPad here. And so many rules, beginning from entering the temple, how you should offer Vanchakalpadurubhasya, devotees in the temple, and then offer to the spiritual master. Yeah. And so we should know those rules because it creates a very nice atmosphere in the temple. Just like we have, 2 sections of the temple if there's some ladies in the temple, right? So we have mostly one lady. But then that means that, okay, a certain part of the temple is designated where they can chant, And if we ignore that, then that shows callousness, because they're sincere Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So this is to keep in mind, and it smooths all the relation between the devotees. You realize it's so important to keep good relationships with all the devotees, so that because they're helping you to become Krishna conscious. Creating the whole atmosphere. And the services, sometimes I come into this wonderful temple, and I remember all the services that were done to make it what it is. Purusha, which we don't see it much anymore, but he's still taking care of the newsletter and making sure the deities are being photographed, He's been here forever, from the 70s, I think. And he has some photos, black and whites, of the devotees who actually put this temple together. Working on the friezes and all the things. And Gunagrai at that time was Gunagrai Maharaj was at that time married. And his wife was the designer, and she spent so much time. I think she went to India, And so all of that, we're benefiting from that. Just like the Bajaris, how beautifully they decorate the altar and the deities, Then that's a wonderful service, obviously, but it's helping all of us to become Krishna conscious. So appreciating the service of all the devotees is an important part of Krishna consciousness, because then you always maintain a positive attitude and you try to really avoid any offenses, glorification. So we also have that. And there's also this etiquette on the battlefield, in the civilized world. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but modern warfare, it's just straight from the hellish planets. There's no etiquette. They try to have war crimes. This came out of World War II. With all of the crimes that Hitler, propagated. But mass bombing. Women and children getting killed. It's just horrific. The sins that are accrued by that, it's just unbelievable. The only hope for the world to eradicate those sins, to counteract them, are the Vaishnavas. To really somehow save people. The advent of Lord Chaitanya and his 10,000-year reign, we can't see that. I can't see it, how that's going to, we trust that it's going to happen, that the Sankirtan movement will be victorious, and all of this madness that's going on will be negated, and there'll actually be the reign of Vaishnavas for 10,000 years. We're at the beginning of it. 500 years is just the beginning. So, but we see, this is part of what this whole passage is about, how that you can't run from the battlefield. I mean, Kshatriyas they're a higher class. They get the threads and everything. They're right next to the Brahmins. They're supposed to understand that we're not the body. Yes, you fight as well as you can. And if you're fighting a righteous cause, you may get killed, but nobody dies on the battlefield. And you go to the heavenly planets. It's all very auspicious. But if you don't, fight and you run off the battlefield, that's very shameful. And you lose your caste, and so that's what's going on here. But you can see that Vṛtrāsura, he's switching back and forth between his real nature. And now he says, if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities, like then in brackets, such as jackals and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligation to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. Now we will learn in subsequent chapters that the soul in this body of Vṛtrāsura is actually was in the body of Chitraketu, who was a great devotee. There's a whole story that we'll learn about how he got the mercy of Narada Muni, and he offered this prayer for 7 days, which it's the only verses I've ever found in all the writings that I can't figure out the meter. It's really far out. You'll see when we do it. Nobody will be able to chant it. But anyway, it's a wonderful. And then for 7 days later, he sees the world, the Lord. He sees I think Sankirtan. So that's very wonderful. And then he starts touring. He's flying in the airplane, and he sees Shiva with Parvati and surrounded by all these sages. And Parvati is sitting on his lap. And he laughs. He says, what is this? These great sages, here's Shiva. And he laughs. And Shiva doesn't care, but Parvati is very angry. And she curses him, now you become a demon. And then Chitraketu just takes it, okay, that's my fate. He doesn't say, pray to have the curse destroyed or negated. So that Chitraketu is the same Vṛtrāsura. And this is how he goes back to Godhead in his next life. He gets killed by Indra, and we'll see the prayers he offers on the battlefield. I was mistaken. It's not when he's lying there. It's before he gets killed. Are just amazing. You know, here's this incredible... I mean, we just heard how just by roaring, everyone fainted. You can imagine how spectacular is this demon. Huge body, very powerful, voice like a lion, like 1,000 lions. I mean, everyone fainted on that. But within, he's this gentle Vaishnava. I'll just take the dust, you know, from the Vaishnava. The Vaishnava's lotus feet. It's quite a contrast. I'm sorry? Gentle giant, yeah. But he doesn't look so gentle, you know what I mean? So it's very dramatic. I remember, I keep telling you, some of you haven't heard this. When I first read this, because when we were in the 70s, these books would come out and everyone would get, oh, the 6th canon was out, let's read, you know. 6th canon part 1, every canon was practically 3 parts, you know. And when this came out, I said, this would make a great movie. This would make a fantastic movie. Someday maybe, the devotee put it. But the point of the purport here, which we finally came to, is the importance of the dust of the Vaishnav's feet. Now this, you know, when we talk about dust of the feet, it means service. It means a sense of, how can I serve you? You know, let me serve the person whose dust I take. It reminds us, just like I remember these pads here, these little mats, you know, there's a lot of very auspicious dust on there. All the devotees who offer this, you're supposed to take your socks off. I think most of us do. And so when it finally got old, I have a bunch of new ones in my apartment, you know, and I put the new one in, take the old one in, and rub on the head. And anyone else is around, hey, you know. But what is that? The whole significance of the dust has mean, I'm your servant. Mukunda Mala. You know, we all know this phrase, das anudasa, right? So this is worth reminding us of. This is Lord Chaitanya's verse, as far as we can tell. He wrote it, you know. Naham vipro, nachanadapatir napi vaisho nashudro. Naham varni, nachagrihapatir novanasto yatirva. Kintu projan akalapadamanan purnam vitabder gopi batu padakamalayur dasa dasa. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, he goes through systematically with all the varnas and ashrams. Naham vipro, I'm not a Brahmin. I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya Shudra. I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm not a Grahastha, I'm not a Vanaprastha or a sannyasi. So what are you? You know? So, into Akala Padamananda Purnam Vitabde. So, Padamananda, the supreme bliss, an ocean of bliss. He did say Krishna is this ocean of supreme bliss. Padamananda Purnam Vitabde, nectarian bliss. Gopi Bhartu, who is the master of the gopis, Padakamalayur, dasa anudasa. I am a servant of the servant of the servant of the feet of Krishna, the master of the gopis, like that. Servant of the servant. So that's pretty spectacular. But not Kavi Karnapur, King Kulashekar in his Mukunda Mala, he has another verse which is even more spectacular. He says this prayer, Mad Janmanak Palamidam Madukaita Bhare, Mat Pratani Madanugrahesh Eva. Oh, my dear Lord, the enemy of the Madhu demon, please make my birth successful by showing me this one mercy. Does anyone know the rest of the verse? For Britya, Padicharika, Britya, Britya, Dimam Smadalokanata. By considering me the servant of 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 your servant. So this is how. Now, what does that mean? It means that it's a great opportunity to be surrounded by so many devotees that you can serve. In other words, we're really supposed to feel like that. And this is the attitude of the real Vaishnava. It's just the opposite of the false ego, where you're trying to get one up on someone else. We can see in this society, it's just the opposite of that. You know, if someone is some poor guy living out in the farm somewhere, but he happens to be the right color, then he'll lord it over those of the other color, and then he'll say, oh, I have my status. Oh, my status is being endangered, by population growth. So, let me do. It's exactly the opposite. Somehow or other, if I can dominate, if I'm dominating, I'll dominate my wife and my kids, and it's demonic. But unfortunately, this is the age we live in. We're surrounded by it. So the actual nature of the devotees and how they speak and how they act and our real heart is the only countervailing force to this. This is what, if anything is going to save this world, it's not going to be any of these political stuff or these crazy wars that are going on. This, and what to speak of, all of the greenhouse gases that are being poured out. Everything's in great danger. It's all like heading toward disaster. So the only real meaningful countervailing force, that can actually help it is Krishna consciousness. And that means we have to be, we have to work to advance ourselves and become examples of good devotion. And that the character and the activities and the knowledge and the books and the chanting and all the things that Srila Prabhupada gifted us, we need to relish that and give it out and really be sincere about trying to help others to take it. That's the only hope for this world. And it looks like a slim hope, but it's the only hope. And because it's Krishna's force behind it, it will succeed. So this Bhagavatam is every word. I mean, sometimes you think, well, yeah, but this verse is about, they're just describing some horrific battle that took place, this particular verse. But no, it's all in relation to Krishna. As we'll see, there's wonderful prayers. When we read these prayers of Vṛtrāsura, they're worth memorizing and really getting into. All the prayers are in the Bible. But aham hare tava paraika mula dasana dasam bhavatasmi bhuya manaksmaneta supate gunangste gunita bhakarma karota kaya. Such a wonderful prayer. Here's this huge demon, just a roar causes everyone to faint. But he's offering these prayers. Aham hare tava, may I again become the servant of your servant here. And aham hare tava paraika mula. One pointed at the feet of the root of the feet of the Vaishnava, of your devotees. Dasanu dasa, the same dasanu dasa, the servant of the servant. Bhavitasmi bhuya, may I again become that, because he was Chitraketu, now he's not Chitraketu anymore. So. And then what will the result be? Manaksmadeta supateya guna, O Asupateya, Lord of my life, then my mind will always dwell on your character, your qualities, your name, your form. Manaksmane tasu, I'll always be able to remember you because I'll be surrounded by those Vaishnavas. I'll be at their feet. Manaksmane tasu pater gunang, I remember your qualities, your pastime. Gunita va karma karotavaya, my voice will always articulate those names, form, and quality of you. This enables it. This is the same prayer that Dhruva offered to Viṣṇu. After all of his austerities, he gets the darshan of Viṣṇu on Garuda. You remember that? We read in the 4th canto. And then we know the famous prayer, Svamin Kratatam Sinidang Liache, I don't want anything. I wanted the kingdom, now I see it's like broken glass, to heck with that, I don't care about it. I see I've got the great treasure jewel of your darshan. Now I don't want anything else. His desire has been purified. But that's not in the Bhagavatam. But what he prayed in the Bhagavatam is exactly the same thing. The association of great devotees. It says, Bhakti muhupa vahatam trahime prasango bhuyadananda mahatam amalashayanam yenanda sobadhamaru vasanam bhavabdim neshe bhavad gunakatam tapana matta. Bhakti muhupa. Let me have the association of your great devotees in whose hearts the river of bhakti is flowing like a great river. It's flowing like a great river of nectar. Bhavatam traime prasango bhuyat ananda mahatam. Oh, unlimited Lord. The mahatam, the mahatmas, the great devotees. Amalashayanam, whose hearts are completely pure. Why? Neshe bhavad gunakatama yenanda sobanam. I always remember this phrase in this translation. I'll be able to easily cross over this fire, this forest fire, or this ocean of misery, birth and death, which is full of blazing fire-like dangers. Ulbanam means fire-like dangers. By that association, yenam basobanu vyasanam, full of dangers, bhavabdim, ocean of birth and death. Why? Neshe bhavad gunakatamata panamata, because I am becoming mad to hear of your qualities and glories, and in that association, I will hear that vibration, in the pure form. And that itself will take me across the ocean. This is his prayer. He's not praying from any kingdom. That he does as a matter of duty. 36,000 years he runs his father's kingdom. His father died. He couldn't stand it. He felt guilty for not objecting in the beginning of the pastime. So we should also have that aspiration, and we should take advantage of the association of devotees. I always remember this one devotee back in L.A. in the 70s. I forget his name now. But he always carried a little side bag like I have here, and in that bag was nectar devotion. And when he met a devotee, he would say, "Prabhu, come on, you want to hear something?" He'd pull out the nectar devotion, start reading, It's very enlivening. But that's what we should be doing. That's the great value of devotees, to hear and chant, to serve them, and serve together, and be enlivened in our service of devotion. It's such a wonderful society Prabhupada gave us, and a chance to perfect our lives. Okay, with that note, I'll end there. If there's any discussion or more nectar verses you may know in that theme. Hare Krishna. Okay, then I'll give you a poem. How about that? Oh yeah, this is a great poem. From the Padyavali. Padyavali is a real treasure. The Padyavali is Rupa Goswami's own nectar file. These are his favorite verses. A few of them are written by him. Within the Padyavali is the Shikshastika, scattered throughout. That's where it came from. And it was assembled by Krishna's Kaviraj, is what we know now. So this is one of the Padyavali verses. I don't know who wrote it, maybe anonymous. Oho aho bir nakale viduyate sudha sudhara madodam pade pade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashoratana yasigiyate. Now, you have to know a little culture. When it gets really hot, which it does very often in India, one of the ways to relieve yourself is through sandalwood pulp. And there's a whole period that we put sandalwood pulp. Chandan Yatra, I think we're in Chandan Yatra right now, right? Where they smear the deity fully with sandal. You see some of the deities, who's that? Oh, that's Krishna. What happened to his blackish? It's covered by sandalwood, right? Isn't it? You see. So now to make the sandalwood pulp even more cooling, you put in camphor, right? A special kind of camphor, not the kind you use for moths, but and that makes it even more cooling. So you have to know that. Because at every step they drink a flood of wondrous nectar sweet, whose cooling power sandal paste enhanced with camphor can't defeat. They feel as if the raging blaze of Kali's days had ne'er begun. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. And that's what Prabhupada did, and that's what we should do. When you go out and distributing books, you're glorifying Krishna all day. Who is that Krishna? Yashoda's son, Yashodanandana. Okay. Anything on Zoom? Vijay Krishna must be in India or somewhere. I hope he's okay. Rasika Sindhu. Nice name. Go ahead.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, Prabhu, the way Vṛtrāsura is behaving is quite mysterious, right?
Yeah.
It's like...
at one point he's this horrible demon frightening, and then he says, oh... And then he says, I'm just like a bird out of its nest. Please let me be. It's quite a, because he's been given this body. This is another lesson, is that the body also, you get a certain body because of previous activity. And it has a certain tendency in the modes of nature, and that has to be oftentimes suppressed or at least sublimated. Okay, if you have a Kshatriya body. I remember, this is one incident, maybe back in 73, 74, soon after it, there was an attack on the devotees in New Vrindavan. Some of you may have heard this. And one lady had joined, and she happened to be a brother of the head of a motorcycle gang. So he drives up with the motorcycle guys, into New... Huh? Oh, it's a daughter. Okay, that's even more. And then, so this was an attack, and then they came with guns, with rifles. And they pointed them through the window. It was at the end of the Artik. I don't know, was it Mangal Artik, or maybe some Artik. The sun was up. And one devotee was shot in the arm, but he survived, huh? Many. I said one. So anyway, it was terrorizing, you know. And they were smart enough to see, you know, devotees were just finished worshiping the deities, and they came in and they saw the deities. I think they tried to close the curtain, but they said, you know, open that curtain. And they took Radharani. First of all, they took Kirtananda, who was in charge at that time, and they took him out, and they were threatening him, you know.
Dig your grave.
Dig your own grave.
So he's digging his grave.
He was digging his grave. And meanwhile, inside the temple, they took Radharani and dropped her on the floor, and there was a crack, and there was a huge sound.
They told the devotee, push her over.
Oh, and
he did.
Oh, he did. I didn't know about that. See, I heard it a little different. It was cleaned up a little bit. Oh. So anyway, there was a crack, which was later repaired. You know, same deity. But that crack frightened the guy who was outside with Kirtananda. And he's, you know, it was Krishna's arrangement. He freaked out and he took all his men and he left. So Radharani saved the whole situation. But after that, you know, it circulated throughout ISKCON, like anything, got back to Prabhupada. And I think it was after that we were told always chant the string of prayers after the kirtan for the safety of the guru and the deities and the devotees, temple. So anyway, we had our own little Kshatriya crew, you know. Guys who had been, you know, known some karate, and we would hear them. They would go up into the gallery and we'd, what? That? You know, all these. All right, they're practicing. But the problem is, you know, then they got all of the skills and they didn't really have anyone to. They were like Vṛtrāsura with those arms, you know. What do we do, you know? Anyway, but that was you know, a sea change in the movement. We said, oh, this may happen, you know, and so we became more conscious of security, and then the gates started to go up everywhere, you know. So that's the world we live in. So, you know, we need to be careful of that, and also this temple, you know, if I come here during the day, there's hardly one here. I mean, devotees are out; they're doing their services. Oftentimes the door, I was happy that I came through the front door, but the inside door was locked. I think that's a good idea, to lock this inside door. So at least, you know, people come in. But if they come in, what's going on? You know, nothing, there's no one around. So anyway, we should be aware of that, because we had one incident already, you know. Someone came in, and we're lucky, didn't desecrate, huh?
South America, they walked and they stole the deity.
Oh, God. And in Mexico, years ago, they destroyed some deities. So we should be very, very careful of that. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.